Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. We are so happy to have you here at USA Global TV and Radio. For those of you in the States, you know it's the dreaded, or maybe you were looking forward to it for a long time. It's Black Friday, all those shopping deals. I just was driving by the local mall and woo, the traffic is stretched all around. I'm so happy I don't have to deal with that. And you know what? I just brought to mind the topic for today on the Listening Mentor show, which is handling difficult situations, especially around this time of year. Some of us want to spend, and our partner, our spouse goes, "What the heck are you doing? We can't afford to buy 25 toys for the children." So we're going to talk about that as well as other difficult topics. So I would like to just share my screen for a moment. This should be interesting because we're actually broadcasting on LinkedIn at the same time. So we'll see if we get some type of cross interference. But my star of our show today, a very good friend, her name is Jacalyn Heward. Let's look at her LinkedIn. Here it is right here. And this is a great way to connect with her. I would look at that. We're watching the show at the same time. It's about 10 seconds behind. But I'd love for you to go to her LinkedIn and connect with her. She is the Harley Street stress expert, and she's helped so many people across the world. She helped me when my mother was dying, and I really appreciate that. I'll remember that forever. So go over to LinkedIn, put in Jacalyn Heward. You see her picture right here. And now you're going to see the real deal. Welcome to the program, Jacalyn. Hello.
Woohoo! Thank you very much, Dr. Jacalyn. It's always a delight and a pleasure to be here. For me in the UK, it's Friday evening. And when I'm not with you, I kind of feel, I'm a little bit like a spare part on a Friday evening.
Well, it's great to have you back. And as we say here, it's Friday. So I'm super excited about this topic. And as I mentioned, and I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world, but today is Black Friday, which really focuses a lot on shopping and then getting ready for the holiday season. This is a stressful time of year. And there are many times when people kind of just butt heads, especially in families. I know that, losing my mom, I'm alone here, so I'm not having a lot of head butting, but I go through some other things that sometimes are difficult conversations inside here. So there's difficult situations, conversations. Tell us about your work as the Harley Street stress expert and how you help people, and then we'll delve into the topic.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, my name is Jacalyn Heward, and I'm known as the Harley Street stress expert. I help people bust their stress. And I look at identifying the root cause, using root cause therapy, using chakra psychology, and how the mind and body connects. What happens to the person physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally when there's an imbalance. Some people say, I'm not stressed. But then they start complaining about they don't sleep, they've got relationship issues, intimacy issues, they've got challenges at work, they've got this ache and pain, or they've had a bereavement recently and they're struggling. They're still not stressed. And it's still a topic that people feel uncomfortable about saying that they're stressed. But actually it comes out in their language, whatever they're complaining about. And I offer a free consultation on either Zoom, on Skype, or audio call, or messenger video or audio. And to offer that to also the people that are camera shy, I do audio calls, to make it easier and, so there's not so much setup for people. And we go through a 30-minute free consultation where I identify the root cause of one symptom that's causing you some challenges. And it's whatever it is that you're complaining about. I've been doing this work for over 2 decades, and I love what I do, and I do what I love, and I genuinely want to create an extremely extraordinary amount of inner peace for you, for your families, and your external environment. So that's me. I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert.
Thank you, Caroline. That's brilliant. I really appreciate it. And just to add a comment onto what you said, I truly do not think I'm stressed out. I really do not. I can't remember thinking, wow, I'm really stressed out, because I remember times in my life when I was really stressed out and I was neurotic and shaking and anxious, but my body is doing some different things. And I'm thinking it's saying, hello, we're letting you know you are stressed out, even if you don't feel like it. So you were just alluding to that. So I think when we think about handling difficult situations, we have to acknowledge our own level of stress. But what if you're like me and you really don't feel like you are stressed out?
Well, this is why I give the additional information. You know, if you don't think you're stressed, then that's okay. I don't want to give you something you don't have, but I want to give people perspective that if you're complaining about not sleeping, or if you have a physical ache and pain, or if you have symptoms that are causing you challenges, or it's showing up in your relationship as it's not working, or intimacy issues, then that is how your stress is manifesting in your life. And so it's whatever it is in terms of physical, emotional, mental, behavioral that's affecting you. And you might not like the term stressed. And so the body, or what's happening in your life, expresses that stress in a different way. So it manifests for people in different ways.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, that was a great explanation to help us get started. So there are certain topics when we think about handling difficult situations. We could think of work-related situations, personal situations. I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you. Ooh, that's a tough one. We no longer require your employment at this facility. I'm sorry that it's the holidays, but we are letting you go. Those are difficult situations, but there's some other situations just on a regular general basis that are difficult because we don't like conflict. We don't like to have any kind of discourse in our life. So let's start off with the big ones, the obvious ones. Sometimes because of the work that we do, the position that we're in, we have to give unpleasant news. That's part of the job. So in those cases, how do we handle a difficult situation knowing we're taking something away from someone or causing someone pain?
I actually had a really good conversation with a friend a number of years ago, and he shared with me, he was a real stress head, and he shared with me that you can't change what happens to you externally. So losing your job, having a reduction in hours, you know, from a promotion to a demotion situation in your personal life, you can't challenge or change what's actually physically happening. But you can change the way that you react and you respond. And so that's what you are in control of. And when you manage how you respond and react, that then in turn puts you in a lot more control than somebody that is reacting and responding from a very big emotional space, rather than a space of being in high intelligence but low emotion. High intelligence, but lacking the emotion to handle the situation. So somebody might be in tears because they can't handle what's been said, and that takes them out of being in the high intellectual response, and then they feel out of control. So it's very much about how we can respond in terms of controlling the situation. We can't control the weather, but we can control the way that we respond to it.
Excellent. Caroline, something that comes to mind when we think about artificial intelligence, I'm reminded of a movie that came out a number of years ago, not a paid spokesperson, but it was with George Clooney. It was called Up in the Air. Did you happen to see it?
I haven't, no.
So, without going through the whole thing, the reason why it ties into what we're talking about today is that his role was to go to organizations and help deliver the information that your job's been eliminated. And the firm that he worked for had a number of people going out across the states or the world, wherever, delivering the information. And they decided to automate the process so that instead of someone sitting in front of you, it was done on a computer screen or a television screen. And they found in the movie that it wasn't received as well. And so when we think about the artificial intelligence and all the ways that it's coming into our lives, delivering that kind of information takes a lot of pressure off of a human if it's done by a robot. So, what are your thoughts if you were going to receive information about something, a difficult conversation, and instead of you getting it from the person, you got it from a robot? How would you feel about that?
Well, it's kind of, it reminds me of being dumped by text. I think that, nobody likes to be dumped by text, and nobody wants to lose their job by text. And it's that that sort of technical layer that feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel human. And we are very much going along that track as we progress in our years. And I happen to know that there was a company, a large company, not too far away from where I'm living currently, that it was a huge factory, and it was in Barnsley in the north of England. And I don't know what kind of company it was, but the workers, they turned up to work and they were told by message, by text, that they were no longer required. And so they lost their money, so they didn't get paid. And some of them have been working with the company for many, many years. And it seems to be a way that people are being treated in our current times. And it's almost inhuman to have that experience. And yet it seems to be much more commonplace rather than going through the human interaction of people losing their jobs. And this was a few weeks ago, so right on top of Christmas, really, and not a great experience to be told you're no longer required, and the company was in liquidation. And so I do believe that in today's current times, many companies are not surviving in our estranged times. And because that's the case, it's almost embarrassing to put a personal figure on top of saying, I'm sorry, we're not surviving, we failed, because the person that's failed in that company doesn't feel so good for themselves as well as for everyone else.
Always love the way that you break everything down for us, Caroline. Thank you. So this one might be a little bit more involved, but I'd love to have you take a stab at it. So if you think about the fact that you're in a relationship with someone, and you and I have talked about this before, we've both been ghosted, where you're in a relationship and someone just goes dark and just like, hello, what happened? I saw you yesterday. Now you're gone. You start to worry something physically has some emergency. But anyway, what I'd love for you to dive into is the need to have closure, whether it's a professional situation or a personal situation. Okay, you don't love me anymore. Okay, I don't fit in at this organization. Okay, it didn't work out in this partnership. Can you please give me some information that I can take, that I can use, that I can understand, so that the next situation I get into, I can incorporate that key learning? But we don't want to give the information because we're embarrassed, we're ashamed, we don't have the time for it, we're done with you already. And that, I think, is what takes the situation, it escalates it to another level, and then can make it an extremely adversarial situation instead of giving the information up front. What do you think about this?
Oh, that's treading into the emotions, isn't it? Well, we don't want to enter into a place of conflict. That's where that's coming from. That the person that doesn't want to give the information is avoiding a confrontation or a conflict situation. And so they're holding back so that they don't get into that situation. And the person that doesn't receive the information knows there's something wrong. They know that there's something that's difficult and they want closure, but they don't know how to get it. So you land up in each other's energy. And so neither one is speaking or saying anything because neither one wants to put their foot in the wrong way. And my response to that is to take the space that you need to sort out your own feelings and emotions, to sort out your own conflict internally. And when you've sorted out your own conflict, then which is about the situation, because it's always about the situation. The person is the person, and if we take out the person, we look at the behaviors of the person and the situation. And it's not always about the person, it's about their behaviors and the situation that you find yourself in. And so it's always about how we're going to react and respond to it. And if we're reacting emotional and negative and angry, that's for us to deal with because that's our response. And so there's something there that's brought up from previous situations that you've not dealt with. So that's for you to work out and deal with your own emotions. And then when you've cleared those down, to then from that clear space, if you feel it would be relevant, and this is important, if you feel that it would be relevant to the person, to give them some feedback. And I would say constructive feedback, and talk about the situation, not you did this and you made me feel this, because that's never helpful. And that takes away all your control. So if you give feedback by using the terms, because I was in this situation, I felt this, and the way that I responded wasn't helpful, which then caused you to respond in a way to my bad reaction. So taking responsibility for the way that you show up and the way that you've responded, and giving constructive feedback to the other person to allow them space to process what was not right for them in the situation, rather blaming the person. Look at the situation and the experience, because then the person might actually gain something from it. The person doesn't know unless you tell them.
And that's such an important point. What if in a situation, and this actually happened to me, I was in a relationship a very long time ago, and I said to the person, I'm really not happy. And here are the reasons why. So for me to stay with you, I feel like we're going to have to come to some type of compromise about X, Y, and Z. And of course, that never happened. And then when I said I was leaving, what are you talking about? I didn't even know you were unhappy. But I told you, and I told you, and I told you, I wrote it down. I put it on the refrigerator. So sometimes we're not actually listening because we don't want to hear the information. I'll get to it later. You know what? She'll shut up. This is happening. So that's my first question. And then I have a follow-up. So if a person acts genuinely surprised, you're at work. Well, you're on a performance plan. What do you mean you're surprised? We told you do X, Y, and Z over 90 days and you didn't do them. So the next step was we're going to have a conversation with you. We're going to be saying bye-bye. So why are you surprised?
Because it is common when people are thinking about stuff, because we have a thinking conversation going on internally, that we don't hear everything that people say to us. And it is our humanness in today's world that is distracted. We might be distracted in our phones, on social media, in our text messages, or thinking about the conversation with our partner or in a meeting that we'd had. So our minds tend to be preoccupied. And unless we give our full undivided attention to someone, we can miss some of the most important things that the person's saying, because you can't listen as well as be doing something else. It's very difficult to do that because it's very easy to miss the crucial bits that the person's saying. And so then they don't respond or don't realize that it's so critical and serious because they didn't hear everything that you said or the tone that you said it in, because their mind and their attention was elsewhere.
Folks, for you who are watching or listening, we have Jacalyn Heward here, the star of our show, The Listening Mentor. She's a certified therapist, and she is here to help you. She is giving her time and her expertise. So thank you, Jacalyn. My follow-up question for you is, and I know that you've heard this before, we've been trained on this as people, just as part of life. You know, Jacalyn, I've really enjoyed our relationship, but I don't want to see you anymore. But it's not you. It's me. It's me. You've done nothing wrong. It's me. I've changed. And this way, you have nothing to say, because I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you or the relationship. What do you think of that?
It's a nice cop-out. And, you know, I've actually, in the past, when I was quite young, had that said to me. And I think it's a nice way of somebody saying, hey, you know, I'm done with this, really. And it stops the conflict. You know, it's a way that somebody can actually say, hey, you did nothing wrong, but, you know, I've changed. Things have changed at work. You know, I'm busy, you know, and rather than going into all the why-fors and wherefores, you know, this cliche, it's not you, it's me. And it is a response mechanism, so that you've got nowhere to go with it apart from saying, oh, okay, you know, well, you sure there's nothing I can do? You know, did I do anything wrong? And you know, that's like a showstopper. You've got nowhere to converse with. It's not you, it's me. And I've certainly seen that in myself, you know, when I've changed careers or I've changed direction. You know, I know that I've changed, and I kind of stay in things because I don't like to leave people. And, you know, I like to have everything there all of the way. And I've changed huge amounts in the last 4, 5 decades. And so, you know, from that place, I can see that I've changed. And if I don't leave the relationship or the friendship, then it almost boots me out, because we're all energy, we're all vibration and frequency. And if your frequency doesn't match the other person's frequency, then you'll end up being in different bandwidths. And so if you're staying in a situation that's not working and the other person sees it's not working, but you're wanting to stick at it and make it work, if you don't take the action, then it almost forces the other person to take action. And that's certainly what happened in my then marriage, that, you know, I was brought up in a very strict way to say, you know, you make your bed, you lie in it. You know, if you decide to get married, then it's for keeps. And so I would never have left the marriage, even though I was terribly unhappy and it really wasn't working. But what I did was I did everything I could to make it work. And my then husband said to me, one of us had to take action, and I knew it wouldn't have been you. And I thought that was very brave of him and very big of him, because I had some principles and some, you know, some hard, fast rules. I was working from a rule book that said, I have to stay here and suffer, even though it's not working, you know. And he gave me almost permission to say it's okay, you know. So he set me free from these steadfast rules that I was working from in that rule book that I no longer work from.
I always appreciate and love your transparency and your honesty when you give examples that are really, you know, real life. It's what's happened.
Mm.
So I want to move back to the ghosting. So for a difficult situation, you and I are in a relationship and I say, you know what, Caroline, everything's great. I'm so happy with you. I'm going to be busy this weekend. It's, there's nothing that's coming between us, but I probably will not be available. So I'll catch you some other time, maybe next week. Bye-bye. Now, you get that information. And now it's probably a more difficult situation because there's a red flag that's been raised. You haven't done that before. Why are you doing that? What does that mean? So now maybe you get a little crazy and start to think, what do you mean you're not going to be around for the weekend? This is our weekend. We spend the weekend together. And then it starts to escalate as an emotional type of roller coaster, as opposed to saying, you know what, Caroline, I've really enjoyed this. I'm not going to be getting together with you over the weekend. In fact, I'm not getting together with you anymore because I actually am moving to Guam. So, I mean, I don't know, just any excuse. Is that a better way to approach it? Or is it better to just, you had a nice weekend, you just disappear, go off into the distance?
It seems to be a thing to, I didn't even know what the term meant, to ghost someone. I found out when I'd experienced it myself. And it's a new, fandangle social media thing to just not respond, to not be there, and sort of when I was growing up, there wasn't social media and there wasn't this way that you could block someone so they can't see you, you can't see them. It's kind of our times, a way to not be available and not need to say anything. I feel that, I grew up at a time that, we were all quite close and, you would just knock on the person's door and go and see them, or you give them a ring from the curly wired telephone, that was wired into the wall. But now we're living in very different times. And I think that it's the different times that we're living in that has created these environments that it's possible for somebody to ghost you. I don't feel it's a very nice thing to do in terms of being on the receiving end, but it's a very good way for someone that doesn't want to share with you what's not working for them and that they've met someone else, to just not have to say anything. It's just an easy way to end something, which I feel leaves a lack of closure for the person on the receiving end of being ghosted. And then on the other hand, there might be an issue in their life. They might be sick and they feel embarrassed to say anything. Or it might be that they have met somebody and they're feeling embarrassed. Or it might just be that, that they haven't got the courage or the confidence to be able to say, hey, it's not working for me anymore. I've moved on. I think that the time that I was born, we had to have those difficult conversations. But I feel that it's just a lot easier now to end a relationship without having to go into all the why-fors and wherefores and get into all the emotional trauma of it all by literally disappearing, blocking and ghosting.
I totally agree with you. And something that I think it took me a long time to realize, decades, is if somebody doesn't want to be with you, why do you want to be with them? If somebody doesn't care about you, they don't love you, they don't respect you, but yet we become desperate or panicked and think, oh no, I can't live without them. How many times have you heard someone say that I can't live without them? You can live without them. You just don't want to live without them. You don't want to do the work. And it's the same thing with a career or a job or anything else. If it comes to an end, I think of it now. I'm not saying that I always did this, but at the ripe age of 60, I look at it as, okay, this is an opportunity for something else to happen. And I don't know how long it took me to get to this point, but now it's almost a relief because we try to push ourselves in these situations and continue to stay, and it doesn't feel good in our body, and we know it, but we struggle and we fight and we work and we're going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make him love me. No, you're not. You're not going to.
It's difficult because it affects our self-esteem, our confidence, and our feeling about ourselves. And so it's that's the reason that we don't want an end, and we want to stay there, because it's almost like you're getting some kind of recognition for who you are, and then you don't have to start again. And so it is very challenging for the person to have that experience. But like you, I myself I have a bit of a ritual where I essentially let go energetically of what was not working. And when I let go of what was not working, sometimes, and it's kind of weird how this happens, sometimes the person can come back without the stuff that's not working, with all the stuff that is working. It's kind of weird. Whatever we focus on expands. So if we're focused on all the negative things that are in the relationship or the friendship, then that's what expands, and that's what we experience. And if we focus on the good stuff, and then what happens is, if there is good stuff there, then that expands. And so I've let go of a few friendships that were very hard, relationships that were very, very difficult. And, one of the things that I said was, I'm letting go of what no longer works, rather than holding on to what's not working. I'm letting go of all the things that are not working. And then I'm going to see what's left. And if there's anything left, that's real. We can't lose what's real. It's the ego that goes in and says, I want to be right. I want this to work my way. But it's not about it working your way. It's about what works for both people and for the situation. And it might be that the friendship, the relationship is over. It's done its course, and now it's time to move on. And like you, I actually have this view: as one door closes, it allows space for another person or another door or opportunity to open up. That'll be far more befitting for who you're being in that moment.
I just am so at awe with everything that you said. You're spot on. A question I have for you, and this is one especially during the holidays. It's not something that I experience. I don't believe it's something that you experience, but many people experience this. They don't want to be in their own skin. They don't want to be alone. A difficult situation is spending an evening by themselves. It's spending hours without having anything to do. It literally can drive them crazy because they want their schedule full from morning till night. That's a difficult situation and causes a lot of anxiety. What is that about?
Well, I actually experienced that experience when my marriage first broke down, and I was left for the very first time on my own. And I'd gone from the family home with all my brothers and my mum and dad at the time, and I'd gone into my then, marriage. And when he left, I was suddenly, for the very first time in my life, on my own. And that was extraordinarily different and challenging. And I didn't actually feel comfortable being on my own, because there was always noise, there was always people. And so I do feel that if you're that type of person that's always had people around you, it's very difficult to be on your own, because there is suddenly that silence, and there is only you to reckon with, you. And that's what can be challenging, that you're faced with yourself. And when you've got all those distractions of family and things going on, it leaves you no time to focus on self, because you're distracted with everything and everyone else and all the things that are going on, to be able to think or do anything about who you're being and feeling and experiencing. And so it makes you face you. And so that's why I don't have any challenges anymore, because I had to face me. And one of my very good friends turned around to me and gave me some really useful advice. because she was helping me to snap out of the fact that I didn't like being on my own. And she said, well, if you don't like being on your own, how are you going to find anybody that wants to spend time with you? And I thought that was extraordinarily insightful, challenging, and what a good friend would say if they really love you and care about you. And I do feel that this friend had my best interests at heart, that she was making me, sort of shake me up in a way to look at the fact that I didn't want to be on my own, and yet I couldn't face being on my own. And there was something that I was running away from or uncomfortable about. So I was actually really grateful, even though it was like a kick in, like a punch in the stomach. It was actually really insightful, and it made me go deeper into why I didn't want to be on my own.
When we look back and reflect on all the decisions we've made or the things we've done or not done, and we have that epiphany like what you had, going through a difficult situation, getting divorced, same with me. And what's the expression, if I only knew then what I know now?
Mm. But this is wisdom. When we learn from the situations, the challenges, and it becomes wisdom, we learn from that. And this is how we grow and evolve, and we move into a different way of being because we've gained wisdom. And that's not bad. That's wonderful, to gain the wisdom out of a challenging situation. And so then we're not repeating the same mistakes or experiences. We're learning from them and growing from that wisdom, so we don't end up in that situation. And now I love being on my own. I love the fact that I can close my door and I can do whatever I want. And that's what my friend actually said to me. She said, I love just opening a pot of Haagen-Dazs and eating it all to myself in bed. And I just thought, really? Because I was living with my mum at the time, my family, when she said it, and I didn't really understand. Now I do. Because nobody's checking up on what you're doing and not doing. And so I can dance, around my home, and be in very little, and I don't have to answer to anybody, and I don't have to, I can sing and I can dance, and nobody say you can't do that unless the neighbor's here.
No, I agree with you. I've spent birthdays alone. I spent holidays alone, and I'm just good with it. So I know there are a lot of topics we could talk about as an extension of this, especially with the holidays coming up and people are having get-togethers and they don't want to have certain people come and other family members. So we're going to save them for future episodes. But what I'd like to talk about as we close out is, we, as the Listening Mentor show, you have been very active and involved with our children's book series, which is Lady Ella. She's a ladybug with wonderful powers to listen at an elevated level, like Caroline. And we have a new book series, and you're the star of the book series. And you're the star through these characters. And by the way, the book came, and here it is. Oh, we can't see it. Can we see it? I'm going to spotlight myself over here. I think we do have a visual. But so on this book cover, you'll see, I think that there's Grace and Hope. They're angels. And then there's the Wizard of Dreams, and there's Lady Ella, who's changed from a ladybug into this character. And so I just wanted to point this out because you have been such a good and loyal, supportive person. Caroline, take a bow.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be part of these different books and to be part of your journey, because it's also helped me grow and evolve as well on the channel. And it's made our friendship evolve into something that I never ever thought would be possible. And it's been quite magical. So thank you for always considering me and asking me, and it's wonderful to be part of it all.
Well, thank you. It means so much to me. Neither of us have any children, But to me, because you and I focus so much in our work on listening, as a therapist, you have to listen. As a TV host and a producer, I have to listen. And I thought to myself, if we learned how to listen as children, imagine all of the disagreements and the misunderstandings that we would save ourselves as we get older because we don't know how to listen at an elevated level. So that's the purpose of this book. And I just want to share here, when it says meet the cast, there's Caroline and there are her two characters. And so in this book, I think this is my favorite. In this book, Lady Ella comes back from her travels, and Mother Earth actually calls her on her little leaf phone. And let me just show it. She has a little phone that's in the shape of a leaf. And Mother Earth calls and says, you've done a great job with all these adventures that you've had, but we've got something really special that I need your help. And Mother Earth says, Father Universe came back to me with my annual physical results, and he said, you're not doing too well, Mother Earth. Parts of you are dying, and we need some real help here. Is Lady Ella available? So Lady Ella ends up accepting this mission, and she gets transformed. She has to go into a time machine over here. She goes into a time machine, and then she comes out on the other end looking like this, which is where she meets Caroline's characters and the Wizard of Dreams, and they accept this mission. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to go to the Congo and meet with the snakes. The snakes are having an uprising because they feel that they own the Congo and there's no room for any other creatures or animals. So together, the four of us go over there. We talk to the snakes and get them to listen to reason. So each book has a life lesson in it as well. So thank you, Caroline. And thank you to everybody out there. The book's available. And then I want to just also mention, this came today. There was nobody here to celebrate it with, but I'm going to celebrate with you. Our first coloring book. Woo!
Woo-hoo!
This coloring book is amazing. And here is Caroline. She's the star of this book. This goes with our very first book, which is, I'm walking over here to get it, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. So Lady Ella goes to Gentle Farm. You see Tara up here in the corner. And Tara is Lady Ella's best friend. And they have a conversation about the fact that the farm animals and the forest animals are not communicating. So I hope that you'll consider going over to Amazon and checking out the books, because there's a lot of love in there. And as you know, anybody out there who's an author, there's really no money. Every book it's upside down, but it doesn't matter. It's for the whole purpose of bringing joy and bringing people together. So Caroline, we are closing out. Our next show is coming out. What would you like to leave our audience with on this Friday in November?
I'd like to thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm so excited to be part of this channel and part of this amazing team and working with you. It's such a joy. And I've evolved in friendships, in conversations, and in opportunities. So my message tonight is a very simple one. Our stress resides in what we're thinking and analysing and getting into anxious states about, of situations that haven't even happened. And so my simple message is to move from the head, where all the stress, strain, physical, emotional, mental reside, and move into your heart. And you can do that in a heartbeat through your breathing into your heart and out through your heart. And when you breathe into your heart, you breathe into a higher vibration, into a vibration of joy, gratitude, compassion, love. And this is the universal place where all babies reside. That's why we goo and gar at babies. And that's because there is no analytical debate or thinking or trying to work something out. They are heart beings. And when we move into our heart, there is only one thing you're going to get, and that is inner peace, inner joy, and a heart-based experience without stress.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Caroline. What a fabulous way to close out the show. Thank you, everyone. We're coming up with coexistence and sustainability with pet psychic Amina, and we're going to be talking about a popular topic, which is feeding wildlife. You see some cute little bunny comes to your door. Oh, let me feed it. And all of a sudden that bunny no longer has the ability to defend itself in the wild. And this happens all the time. So we'll be looking at that. We're going to close out with a video clip about Lady Ella. So thanks again. Thanks, Caroline. Bye, everyone. We'll see you.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
USA Global TV and Radio, in partnership with Dr. Jacalyn LLC, present Amazon #1 best-selling author, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is a certified life, career, and executive coach who teaches people how to listen at an elevated level through her courses and her books. Dr. Kerbeck teaches her clients how to open their hearts and express themselves through their creative genius. In her children's book series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, The Listening Mentor, Dr. Kerbeck teaches children and their families how to listen at an elevated level. Dr. Kerbeck has worked with clients across the world to guide them in how to express themselves and communicate at a highly effective level. Join our team of elevated listeners so you can listen without judgment, without providing a solution, without interruption, and without stealing the stage. To order your books today, go to drjacalyn.com or Amazon.